Hello, everybody. My name is Bill Meheula, and I'm facilitating this discussion this morning. Today's topic is leadership in Hawaiian politics, and we're lucky to have three prominent leaders and three really different leaders. We've got Governor Waiheʻe, Kaleikoa, Kaʻeo, Keanu, and they've all done special things in different ways. And I think we're at this point in time when I think where we go as Hawaiians is sort of at a fork in the road. And I think what we see here today are leaders that are going to help us decide and help the Hawaiians decide which road we're going to take or whether we're going to forge a new one. So let me just start off by just giving a little background on our three panelists today and a little bit of an editorial as to their leadership role in guiding Hawaiians over their careers. Start off with Governor Waiheʻe. Governor Waiheʻe, just give you some information you may not know. You always got to start off in Hawaii with where you went high school. And he went to Hawaii Mission Academy. What year was that? You graduated? I couldn't find that. I looked that up on 1986. That's what I thought. 1964, all right. And went to Andrews University, went to University of Hawaii Law School, first graduating class, 1976, and immediately got into politics. He was in the Constitutional Convention in 1978 that created Article 12 of the Hawaii Constitution that created a lot of Native Hawaiian rights, including the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And then shortly thereafter, he became a lieutenant governor and was lieutenant governor from 1982 to 1986. From 1986 to 1994, he was a governor. He was our governor for 8 years and did a lot of things for Hawaiians as governor. He is currently, as of about a year ago, he is the chairman of the Roll Commission that was started by Act 195 in 2011, and that is a commission that's going to try and create a role of Native Hawaiians who are 18 years or older and want to participate in formation of a Native Hawaiian government. And I'm sure he'll tell you a lot about that today. I know that Governor Waiheʻe, after he left office, has also, as a lawyer and as a consultant, represented a lot of Native Indian tribes across the country, and so he's very ma'i in that stuff too, and how it might help Hawaiians.
Or what to avoid.
Yeah, that's right. That's helping. You know, I would characterize Governor Waiheʻe as a master politician. He's mastered local politics in a way that he could further Hawaiian interests. I think that a lot of times when you look at our Native Hawaiians who are in local politics, you know, you're always saying, oh, well, how come they can't do more? How come they can't do less? And it's that balance that they bring in trying to get all of the other legislators and all of the other politicians to agree with him or her that, okay, we should do this for Hawaiians, and get them to actually do it. It's almost the art of if you ask for too much, you're not going to be able to get it. And in my assessment, he is a master at getting what he could. And he got a significant amount of things for Hawaiians. Creation of ʻAha. Some of the other things he's done was he was able to get 1993 Office of Hawaiian Affairs $130 million settlement, and that's really the seed money that it has now of about maybe 335 million. It's just grown. So it was, you know, at Governor Waiheʻe's, he was leading that administration that really pushed the administration to give that first big settlement. I think, you know, we've got an example here of a master politician in local politics, trying to help Hawaiians as best he can, and I think he was extremely successful in doing that, so we're lucky to have him here today. Keanu Sai, he went to Kamehameha schools, graduated in 1982, went to New Mexico Military Institute, also went to the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and got his degree in 1987. And then after that, he did a lot of independent research that I think he is now famous for, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And in 2008, from the University of Hawaii, he got his PhD in political science. And I would characterize Keanu Sai as a leader who has changed the playing field for Native Hawaiians. And let me tell you about the first time I met him. In 1994, when me and other lawyers filed a lawsuit to stop the state from selling ceded lands, the state was going to sell like 500 acres in Lahaina, 1,000 acres in Kona. This was ceded lands. This is the first time that the state was actually going to sell to third parties out of the ceded lands trust land. So we felt it was important to try and stop it. And it was going to go to trial in 2000. And we were able to stop it from 94 to 2000 by way of motions that prevented the state from actually selling. And because of that, the title insurance company said, well, then if you can't win this lawsuit, we're not going to give title insurance. And it kind of stopped those sales. So that was successful. And we tried to slow down the case because we had somewhat already won. But then finally in 2000, we had to go to trial. So before going to trial, I knew one of the things that we had to prove was that Hawaiians had at least a colorable or valid claim to the ceded lands. Because our main theory was the state shouldn't sell ceded lands if Hawaiians have a claim to the ceded lands until that claim is resolved. Otherwise, you're selling stuff that potentially you don't own. So this is what we're telling a state court. And so one of the things I had to prepare for in going to trial was, what claim do Hawaiians have to the ceded lands? So what I did was I read every law review article and publication I could find on sovereignty and Hawaiians' rights to land. My staff just collected like a stack, and I just read it every night. And one article I read was this article from this law professor on Indian rights in New Mexico. Famous guy, and he had a little footnote, and it said, you know, Native Hawaiians may have a different and stronger claim than most American Indians because they may have created an independent nation state as opposed to just a tribe that didn't have political international powers. So I read that, and I didn't see that anywhere. Okay, this is in 2000. I didn't see that anywhere written. So I started asking around, like, you know, professors at the University of Hawaii, John Van Dyke, and everyone said, well, you know, that's really not a legal theory. But the only guy we know that's sort of working on it is this guy Keanu Sai. So I called him up and introduced myself, and I said, hey, what can you tell me about this? And so he said, well, if you want to come to my house, I'll teach you about it. So I came to his house, I think 5 days in a row in Kaneohe, and he taught me, you know, and it was fascinating. And it became, and what we found out was that the apology resolution in 1993, which was sort of the basis of the case, because in that apology resolution, there were statements to the effect that, you know, Native Hawaiians never waived their claim to the ceded lands. So, you know, and what we found out was when you read the historical underpinnings of the apology resolution, they were talking about public international law and the fact that the Hawaiian Kingdom had been recognized as an independent nation state. And then, you know, Keanu taught me about public international law, and we put that in as one of the theories upon which Native Hawaiians would have a claim to the ceded lands. And of course, so that was my introduction to Keanu Sai. And of course, since then, He's well known for his work, and actually his body of work has developed a lot more, and it's a lot more sophisticated than it was then. And he publishes it, and you go on his website and find out about it, and he's going to tell you about it. But you know, Keanu is someone who's dedicated to this theory, and frankly, it is the strongest theory. I mean, there are other theories, you know, that Native Hawaiians are the indigenous peoples of these lands, and therefore, under the Indian Commerce Clause, they have certain rights. But the problem with that theory is that under the discovery rule, because all of the other American Indian tribes were not independent nation states, the America and the other recognized states could discover the land and take it and then basically give you what rights they think you're entitled to as trustee. Well, that's not like a claim to absolute fee simple title to that land. And that's what Keanu brings to the table here. And I think, you know, one of the rubs we're continuing to have, and hopefully we can discuss that today, is, you know, how much, I mean, these bills that are trying to go through, they are in large part dependent upon Indian Commerce Clause type of status. The 60 million, 70 million we get from the federal government every year for Native Hawaiian education, Native Hawaiian health, significantly tied to the belief that Native Hawaiians have these rights under the Indian Commerce Clause. And so, you know, how do you meld these two together or not to move us forward to that point where, you know, we are governing in a way that's a lot more than we are now? Kaleikoa Kaʻeo is someone that I don't know, and just met him today formally, talked on the phone last week a little bit. But so I asked him for his resume and to send me something, and he told me he would, but he didn't. But I knew when he said he would, he wasn't going to. You know, he has that. You know that.
You can Google them.
I did. And what I'm telling you, I found online. So I don't. But it came out of his own mouth, though. It was YouTube, so. He's got a lot of YouTube stuff. But fascinating story. But he went, first of all, he went to Baldwin, graduated in '84.
Baldwin.
Yeah. He went to University of Hawaii, got his degree in Hawaiian Studies, and then a master's in political science. He's a professor of Hawaiian Studies at Maui College. And, you know, because I don't have firsthand knowledge as to what he stands for, I can just tell you what I gathered so far real quickly, and then we can kind of let him tell you more. Might as well have it from the horse's mouth, since I can't give you an experience. But you know, I would describe Kaleikoa as a cultural, spiritual leader, and I think the one thing I learned from watching him talk was, and I was moved by it quite a bit, was we got to learn what it is to be Hawaiian and what it is to be a Hawaiian leader before we, and that's the part I don't know, before we what, you know. And so I'm hoping that Kaleikoa can share his philosophy on that. So that's the introduction. I think we're going to start off by going with Kaleikoa first, and then Keanu, and then the governor. And I told him, you know, why don't we just start off with 15 minutes, and you can just tell us a little bit, or less if you want, or of your goal, and this is the question, your goals in regard to furthering Hawaiian interests. So it's pretty broad, but personal.
Kaweliani au kua pau, aloha mai, apoe hoa aloha aina o ahu. Wau he keiki no hoi no kamokopuni o Maui, ko umaku o Kane, no ke ahu pua'a o Hanio'o, Hamoa ma Hana, ko umaku hine no Ililani no Liverpool no hoi. No leila. Hana ia wau ma kamokopuni o Maui, ai no wau ke Aino ke noho nei ma Waiheʻe, ma kula me koʻohana no leila. Aloha. First, I'd like to say, one of the things I think, I get real uncomfortable with the word leadership, honestly. And that's because I always say, I'm really the best student out there. Honestly, I always consider myself a good student because I've been around some real good people. And if it wasn't for those people and the learnings that I got, I would not say what I say. I would not feel what I feel. And so a lot of what I hope to say actually going to come, straight from na'au. I don't claim to be an academic. Sometimes people call me a historian, and I say, no, I'm a storyteller. Historians get too much rules. That's what people like Keanu, you see. And if you know my nature, I don't like rules. So, but, I descend from, actually, we all descend from some real good kupuna. And as I was taught, we are our kupuna. So umi, that's all of us. Ke kaulike, that's us. Kaikili, that's us. So I always think, what would they say and what would they do? And I have that faith. And I, coming from Papa Mao, in conversations with him once. And I remember, and I just was so astounded in his, I remember, for example, on Kaʻeo, I'm walking with Papa Mao Piailug on Kaʻeo, and he goes, oh, I've been here before. And I kind of turned like, and what he meant was, his kupuna had been here before, so he been here before. The path we walk, these conversations we have today, is not unlike the questions that they dealt with in the past. And I was fortunate. I've been around some real good people. Some real good people that unfortunately maybe have passed on. Some of you remember people like Kupuna Pre-Gene. Kupuna used to come to the university and bust me out of the classes. Knock on the door and tell the professor, I need to take that the student out of class. And he would take me out to lunch, eat Chinese food at some restaurant. I'm sitting there with a bunch of Indians. I didn't realize people like Russell Means and Bill Means and, some great people who do a lot of good work out there. Uncle Tami Maunu Pao, Kupa, Mahopi Okaina, Uncle Ed Kanahele, Uncle Parli Kanaka Ole, Uncle Erika Anana, who taught me a lot. So I was a good student. And they would always say, go, boy, go. Tell him. Mama Hale. And no matter what I said or what I do out there, people get this kind of, kupuna, ruka, and they're conservative about stuff. But, they always told me, hey, good, boy, go. So I'm never afraid. Because to me, I know what their commitment was. And the legacy, I keep on pushing. And then I have many teachers that still, whether it's Dr. Kekuni Blaisdell, or Bill Amona. One of my great teachers, right here, we have Kihei Solini Hale. You get my kuana, Kiopi Raymond from Maui here. Another kuana right here, Haleloha Ayao. My good brother, Andre Perez. Brother Louis, brother from Maui. One of my close brothers, Kamana Opono. Brother Keanu Sai. We were all at the university together at the same time. And I learned from each and every one of them. And the first question I want to just kind of show perspective, how I like to, engage with this is when I ask my students, I'm a teacher by trade. I love to teach. I love to educate. And one of the questions I always ask my students is, what color is the sun? What color is the sun? Hey, here we go. Well, those are my students from Maui. See? You see? Okay. But when we look at the sun is what color? Yellow. So if I told you, let's bet $1 million, your life, what color is the sun? And you're going to say, yellow. Well, from here and from this perspective, when you look through this atmosphere, the sun is yellow. But if you were to escape from this atmosphere and actually leave so-called Earth, and you look to the sun, it's going to be white. The point I'm trying to make, they're both correct. It's not that the sun is really white or yellow. The color of the sun depends on the perspective from which you engage to look at the sun. Part of the problem we have in discussions, especially in politics, is people get too stuck in fighting over whether the sun is yellow or white. Because they're correct. From their perspective, from where they stand, man, you cannot tell me the sun is not yellow. For me, I want to propose that we need to move out of our perspective sometimes and to see that maybe the sun could be white or the sun could be yellow. And in fact, both perspectives are correct. And for me, one of the big pieces, what we don't really have today, in fact, is this kind of conversation. And this is what our people lack. Good, critical discussion. In fact, I always say, I wish some of the conversations I had Keanu, I wish was videotaped. Man, we had some pretty good things over Heineken sometime. I mean, some deep beefs and fights and loving, but the critical discussions is what we need. Because I tell you what, there's a fear out there. I'm being honest. When they have presentations to people talk about Hawaiian politics, you notice a lot of times certain voices are not there. How come? Because they can only see the sun as yellow. They don't want anybody else talking about the sun being white out there. And for me, what we need as a people today is that kind of discussion. And so, for me, politics. I go back to our lessons from our Kupuna. And the word in Hawaiian, what is the word for Hawaiian politics? Not politica. What's the word? Kalai aina. I want you guys to remember that word. Kalai aina. To carve up the land. This is giving us a view, an understanding what Hawaiian politics is about. Many times today, we caught up in, I hear words, entitlements, grant money. I'm not saying those things aren't important, but it leaves us to get confused. The eyes, they say, the eyes get off the prize. Mili ai pohaku. The famous line, Aole mako a e mina mina. Ika pu'ukala o Keʻao puni. What does it mean? We're not going to be mina mina about what? Money. So for me, I'm not saying money cannot help alleviate pain and suffering and the conditions of our people. But I know that's not my goal. One of the things I always say, I'm not here to get a longer leash or a cleaner cage. Those things are nice. A better seat at the table, maybe a better scraps. That's a little better. But I want to break that leash. I want to break that chain. I want to get out of the cage because we don't belong in the cage. And sometimes that's the difficult question. Because, we really got to take care of our people. We got to feed and house our people. And Kalai Aina has always been about that. If you really understand our politics, you can go to the story of Umi. And let me just start with Umi. If you never read that story, you should know that story. Yeah? Shorten a brief version. Shorten them up. Yeah? Umi, son of Liloa. Yeah? But wasn't raised as a young boy with Liloa, right? Because he was a product of a kahia kuleana out in the countryside. But when he goes eventually to see his father, you see in the story there's certain traits that Umi has already as a kid. Leadership was based upon those traits. As a small boy, it said that Umi would play with his friends, but he was the leader of the games. And when there was power play, what would Umi do? Feed them. He'd take the kids to his house, feed them all. He wasn't taught that. That's innate. And what would happen? What he thought was his father would come home. And what would the father do? Beat him. Because he gave away all the food. And what did Umi do the next day? He fed him again. See, my point I'm trying to say, the rule of the main point of leadership is to feed and house the people. And then Umi goes off eventually to live with his brother, Hakau, when Liloa passes on. And Hakau is given the kuleana and says, hey, you take care of your brother. And Hakau is given the rule of Aupuni. He is given the rule of the political leadership. But Umi is given what? The family god, Ku Kailimoku, to care for. But Hakau, see, he's power hungry. He's jealous. He mistreats Umi. Eventually, Umi says, the hell with this, I'm out of here. And he takes his so-called adopted sons, o Maukamau, Pi, Maiva, and Koi, who are actually bigger than him, and they leave. And they eventually end up in Laupohoi area. And when they get there, yeah, they hook up with some women. You know, they said, Umi's so good looking. He don't just get one wife, he get two. To get perks there for leadership sometimes, maybe, yeah? Ooh, that's on camera. Better watch out that one.
It's not on.
No, you gotta cut that one out, did you? ʻAha Kane. Hey, but when he gets to Laupoa, when he gets to this is the point I want you guys to remember. His adopted sons tell him, Umi, you stay here. You know work. You do what you got to do. And they go off and work. And Umi's so-called father-in-laws and the parents-in-law kind of look, man, we get one lazy, son-in-law. Not like work. And Umi is seen as a bum. In fact, the Hawaiian word, ilehune. He's living in destitution. But you know what he do every day? He still take care of his akua. They go out fishing, as the story goes. And he watches when they're going to, divvy up the fish. And the guy gives him one big aku. But when the guy gave it to him, it passes between his legs under his okole and gives it to Umi. But Umi goes, I don't like the big fish like that. So he trade him back. He gave him the big fish. He liked the smaller fish, the one that never go under the guy's elemu. Because he's not going to take that fish home to eat. He's taking that fish to do what? Honor his family god first. And he does this. So you can imagine, here are the parents-in-law. Man, this guy go out work, come back, no more nothing. They're all grumbling. So here's Umi, ilehune, people talking crap about him. Does it change his commitment? No. It's kupa. So I guess the point I'm trying to make here today, sometimes this idea of our conditions that we sit in, I'm not saying they're good, I'm not saying they're healthy, but Umi never gave up in understanding what the long-term goal was, you see. Even when he was called names, even when he lived in poverty, he still had the eyes and the prize. And for me, these lessons are really pertinent and important to us today. And one of the things I teach my students, I say this. The question I ask my students is this. We as a people, been around for how long? We wasn't born in 1776. We've been here a couple of thousand years. And when you want to go back to Ila'i, we've been around on this earth for over 20,000 years. To the beginning of the stars and cosmos themselves. That's our consciousness. We're not Johnny-come-latelys here. We've been here from the very beginning of time. My question is, as a Lahui, I'm not talking about where we're going to be in 20 years. How are we going to be here in 40 generations? How are we going to be here in 80 generations? Let me ask this question. How much billions of dollars is going to take us in that path and journey? And for me, and I will say this, see, Hawaiians today, we don't have an economic problem. I want you guys to be clear about this. There's this false consciousness. Somehow, we have an economic problem. No, we got a political problem. How much is Kamehameha School's worth? How about ʻAha's portfolio? How about Hawaiian homelands? It's not a matter of the resource, but let me ask this question. Who runs the show? Who decides what is invested? Who decides policies? Is it our people? I want you guys to think about that. So it's not economic. You cannot have billions of dollars in assets and think you're going to add a couple of billion more and things don't get solved. Because if you're not controlling those first few billions, adding a few more ain't going to solve the problem. So for me, my question is how do politically we regain control of those institutions? That's the question I want to leave. That's to me, that's the burning question. How do we get there? And I know some people can help to answer some of their questions. But for me, that's the question. If we're going to live on 80 generations, Uamau, Keʻea, o Ka'aina, I Kapono. Keʻea of what? Ea of what? Not a constitution. They never say that. Not of a big bank account. They never say that. You know, and I'm going to end with this, just as Uncle Parley taught me. You know, Hawaiians, wherever you step upon this place, wherever you shall tread, whatever you eat off this ground, that's our kulaivi. Literally, that is the bones of our kupuna. That's us. So the health of our people, the future of our people, is that we continue to walk and live upon our kulaivi. That we continue to eat from this kulaivi. That's how we're going to sustain ourselves into the future. So, anyway, sorry I passed my 15 minutes, I think so.
See how you match that, huh?
Well, I know you can.
Hello, my kako. You know, a lot of people ask me, you know, I'm always viewed as this academic guy. Yeah? I'm always viewed as this historian. I'm always viewed as a leader. I agree with Kaleikoa, I'm not a leader. I just have kuleana. See, I used to be a leader when I was a captain in the field artillery, because as a leader, you can hold guys accountable. I can counsel that guy. Yeah? I can dock his pay. I can't do that. I only can lead by example, which is more kuleana. Yeah? So I'm really answerable to myself, but also answerable to my kupuna, who I come from. So when people ask me, Keanu, what started you on this? My good friend, Eddie over here, hale aloha, ayao. First thing he tells me is, Keanu, something's in your head. Some alien went in your head, because that's why you think the way you think. We're classmates from Kamehameha.
That's all right, bro.
Get it out, get it out. Kamana'opono, mother classmate. To think that he and I and Halealoha would have a law degree and PhDs, you would have never thought about that back in high school. We just finished our 30-year reunion up at Kamehameha this past week. Oh, it was hilarious. Just looking at where everybody went. And everybody asked me, Keanu, what happened to you? Why you talk with big words now? See, when I was at Kamehameha, all I worried about was playing football, trying to beat St. Louis. That's all I cared about. And we kept losing.
So your boys went St. Louis.
Oh, that was tough for me, sending my two boys to St. Louis. But then I saw John Heiner, Malcolm Lutu. Oh, your kids couldn't get in either. I felt good. You know, there's Kanalui people here. Kalamai, my dad went Kanalui. Actually, he got kicked out. He went Kamuki. Well, they say when you get into Kamehameha, that's St. Louis is purgatory till you get into heaven. My youngest one got into heaven. My oldest one, purgatory. And I'm proud of that, you know, because St. Louis is a good school. The only thing I had with it was football. That's all it was, football. My whole family went St. Louis. But at Kamehameha, I was not the academic type. I remember my dad tells me, Keanu, you going to college, huh? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, I guess I got to go college. So I went to go talk to the counselor, Myron Arakawa, up at Haleakala. Mr. Arakawa scheduled a meeting the day after, the day ahead, and he tells me in the meeting, Keanu, you should have thought about that when you was a freshman. I went, what are you trying to say? He says, I recommend you join the military. Get disciplined, and maybe try a semester at KCC. Truth. I walk out, and I'm like, the only thing I'm concerned about is letting my dad know I don't think I'm going to college. And out there waiting for me is a Sergeant Major Lido. If any of you guys remember him from Kamehameha. He says, hey, Keanu, here you got a problem. Oh, news travel fast. Kill two birds with one stone. I get you in college. And you also get paid $100 a month. One condition, you got to go Fort Knox, Kentucky, basic training. Then go to New Mexico Military Institute. And I got to tell you, when I went to New Mexico Military, I got disciplined. And when I say discipline, I learned accountability. When I was growing up, I didn't have accountability. I had mana flying all over the place, you know. And it was really hard to keep track of what I was doing because I went where the wind blew, yeah. So did Kamana'o, so did Halealoha. It's not just me. While I was at New Mexico Military, I learned discipline. I learned accountability because then I knew kuleana, yeah, that's one thing, responsibility. The next thing that goes with that is called accountability. You can say, I got kuleana, but who can hold you accountable if you're wrong? Yeah? So there's got to be a balance, and that's what I learned as an officer. So I got commissioned as a second lieutenant, Army Reserve, 3 years active, 3 years reserve I got to serve. From there, went to UH. Now, what changed me to why I got involved with what I do now wasn't because of the military. Military is just training me to be accountable. I got a call from my mom. Okay, this was April of 1984. My tutu, I'm the oldest mopuna. My tutu's name is Rose Reeves. Rose Kikaikuihala Simerson Reeves. I'm from the Reeves Ohana in Kuli'o'o. Keanu Reeves is my cousin. His grandfather and my grandfather, brothers. Both of us were named after my grandfather, Henry Keanu Reeves. That's where the Keanu name comes from. So I'm the oldest mopuna, and I used to go everywhere with my tutu when I was small. And things that I took for granted, I look back, I'm like, wow, that's pretty unique. My tutu would take me to go pick pipipi down by Allen Davis. And it wasn't trying to be Hawaiian. That was just getting pipipi so we can go home and use the pins and start eating. You know, with the newspapers all out and all the cousins there. Then I remember going with my tutu at Kahala Beach, picking limu lipoa. I totally forgot about that stuff. But every time I passed by that beach, I went, hey, I remember with my tutu. That's what we used to do, because I remember the smell of the lipoa. Yeah, real strong, huh? So my tutu tells my mom to let me know, because my tutu got ill with cancer. So she's terminal, and she's going to be in hospice, which is right next door to my Uncle Hank's house, because we're all related in Kuli'o Valley. And that she didn't want to die until I come home. And she also didn't want to die until my uncle, Johnny Joe, comes home. He was a Vietnam vet. He was in a VA hospital, suffering from PTSD and all that. So I was able to make it home. My uncle didn't make it. So all my tutu wanted me to do was to sit down with her on the side of the bed and just talk story. And really, I wasn't talking. She wanted to talk. I was just listening. So I'm sitting down, talking to my tutu. She's talking to me, and she's sharing with me all these stories. Just talking. I was like, wow, this is some heavy stories. One particular story that stood out with me was she tells me about how it was almost as if she was reliving when she was 9 years old. Because she was talking like that. And she was talking about Uncle Paneko. I remember Uncle Paneko, my older uncle, always with my tutu, but Uncle Paneko. And how Uncle Paneko, who was at that time, must have been 6 years old, got dirty lickings outside the house on Auld Lane in Kalihi, okay, the old house. And then she was so sad for Uncle Paneko because Uncle Paneko did not bow correctly, and he turned his back too quickly, and he ran out the door. And my tutu was saying how you're supposed to bow correctly and walk backwards, and then you turn, because she said Prince Kuhio was there. But she was all concerned about Uncle Paneko. And I'm going, wait, tutu, try back up. Who's in the house? Prince who? Prince Kuhio. And my tutu's talking about Prince Kuhio like nothing. He used to come over the house all the time. I'm like, what? I walk outside, I tell my parents and all my aunties, Tutu's talking about Prince Kuhio. It's the morphine. No, I said, no, Tutu is clear. She's clear. She's speaking very straight. And that intrigued me. And I'm just listening to more stories, just more stories. Well, before she passed away, she had me promise her one thing. She says, you know, Keanu, I need you to promise me that you will know your genealogy. She said, when you know your genealogy, you will know who you are and what you got to do. That's all she said. And I said, okay, Tutu, I will. Now, at that time, I thought my tutu said, no, it was to be Hawaiian, because that's when I transferred to University of Hawaii in 1984. Bro, talking about stuff hitting the fan up there. Haunani was still in American Studies. I was taking classes. Lily Kala, she was a master's student back then. Dorton, she was teaching 480-something, huh? The Meheula class. I mean, you walk into these classes, and you walk out, you're like Punch on Haole. No, I swear. The missionaries, you wanted to knock them. No, I was just anger. I never had that at Kamehameha. Kamehameha, I was just trying to get into college. So I remember one time when I got into an argument with my dad. I was a junior. I started blaming my dad for all the haoles taking over, the missionaries. And my dad worked for Hawaiian Ka. He was a supervisor. Like he had anything to do with any of that stuff. So he tells me, you know, Keanu, thought you went to school to get educated and not come home, argue with us. That floored me. My dad could have popped me. But right there was so crisp. It was like one straight right, pop. I was like, wow, what's happening to me? For one thing, I'm part haole. The other thing, I used to be an altar boy, Holy Trinity. My tutu was a devout Catholic. I'm a walking contradiction. Blame the haole, blame the missionaries. And that was hundreds of years ago. What the hell does that have to do with my dad at Hawaiian Ka? But I was just regurgitating what I was learning. I didn't have a baseline. I didn't know anything. I was just sucking it in. And if I was sucking it in, it's coming out. Well, I quickly realized, wait a minute, I'm still a commissioned officer. I didn't get branch qualified field artillery. Oh, this kind of stuff, you get relieved of your command real quick. It's called unbecoming of an officer, emotionally unstable. And that's when I went, hey, forget this stuff about sovereignty, Native Hawaiian. What's my fast track degree? Sociology. I go in sociology. I did. I went changed to sociology. Fast track. Got my degree. I didn't even walk. This is 1987. Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I'm going through training. Branch qualified. 6 months. That's when I went through furthering my discipline. And as an officer, they teach you not to get emotional. They teach you how to be calculated because you got to create battle plans. Field artillery is known for the king of battle, infantry queen of battle. So we got to come up with battle plans because I'm attached to the infantry as a fire sport officer. I'm a battery commander. We got to come up with fire plans, all these things. What always happens in the military that we were trained is that when you look at history, history informs the battle plan. The battle plan does not come out first before you understand what happened. The history, it's called intel. That intel is processed to create the battle plan. That's where you capitalize on the successes, you learn from the mistakes. Yeah? So basically it goes like this. The practical value of history, it's a film of the past, run through the projector of today onto the screen of tomorrow. You guys got that one? A film of the past. The history is a film of the past because you cannot change it. What happened a second ago? What Kaleikoa just said, he kind of retract. No matter what he told, this was ʻAha Kane on the video. Unless I can edit. He kind of retract. But he can understand next time, don't do that. You see how history just informed that decision. So the practical value of history, it's a film of the past run through the projector of today onto the screen of tomorrow. That film never changes, but your projector got to get updated. Once you update your projector, you can process more film. Now you see something you didn't see. That's what we call a battle plan. And the battle plan is fluid. Yeah, it's not static. So when you're engaging with the enemy, you will change on a dime. If you got intel tells you there's a kill zone right there. Guess what? Move. Yeah? Yeah. Move to the left. Hulihema, Huliakau, Julio. That'll be informed. You ever heard of that term, turn on a dime? It's a military term. Okay, you put a dime down, you put the tank over it. One track turns this way, the other track turns the other way. Turn on a dime, 180-degree turn, because you're going to walk into a kill zone. That's why information is important, and it's fluid. It's always coming in. Once you think you know the battle plan, you just walked into that kill zone. Now you become a part of history. And that's what I'm going to learn from. Brother just got taken out. Now I know. I'm going to turn. Now that concept right there is very Hawaiian. The word for future is kava mahope. Va o manava is time. Mahope is a directional. What is mahope? Backwards. What is forward? Mamua, imua, ihope, mahope. So when you look into America Venapokui's dictionary, it says future, defined as kava mahope, the time of the past. So when you tell a Hawaiian, look forward, he looks to the past. See, that's very military. You know, a lot of Hawaiians, nakoa, it's military. Look to the past. You turn around, you look to the past. There you will need to understand the mo'olelo. The mo'olelo that can extend from a day ago to 100 years ago to 1,000 years ago. And it's through that mo'olelo, when you start to understand it, you will naturally get ike, foresight. Now you see something you didn't see before. Not because I'm telling you what to see, you're going to see it. You're going to see Kaleikoa making that mistake. And you're going to learn from Kaleikoa for making that mistake. You folks remember the brother Israel, Kamakavivole. Remember his CD, Facing Future? What is he doing? He's backwards. All you see is his big back. Because he is embodying the concept of kavamahope. So when people tell me, what should we do in the future? I can tell you what is what happened. Yeah? And if I understand what happened, I know what I'm going to do. But I don't want to make it like I got to tell you what to do. Because then if I tell you what to do, then you don't understand the mo'olelo. You saying Keanu told me the mo'olelo. No. You got to know the mo'olelo because we are descendants to our ancestors. And as Kaleikoa said, as descendants to our ancestors, we are part of that mo'oku auhau. So as we are descendants to our ancestors, they are in me. Their decision-making is in me. And that also includes everybody in the world. I'm just not going to limit it to Umealelo. Maybe I can learn something from William the Conqueror. Yeah? The Norman invasion. Maybe I can learn something from that. But remember, as we are the descendants of our ancestors, we will be the ancestors to our descendants. Can't forget that. So every action you take now, just know where you're coming from because people will be looking at you and what you did. And they'll say, gee, brother was making that same mistake. What was he thinking? He wasn't learning anything. He was telling everybody, jump off the cliff, and everybody dying. Nobody stopped to ask the question, how come we jumping? We got to go back to who we are. We got to go back to our kupuna. Yeah? But don't limit it just to our kupuna. Open it up to everybody. Because that's what we did in the military. So you can see how the military has transformed the way I think from Kameme days in high school. But you know what? Going back with the classmates, the funny thing is we are the same. We never change. We never change. And that's the key thing. You don't need change. You got to adapt. Yeah, remember, you and mo'o, but the mo'o can change color. But the mo'o cannot change shape. Yeah? That's what I believe. So if I'm in front of, I argued a case in the World Court, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in the Netherlands. I got to put on this color of blue, international. I'm the same mo'oro. When I come home and I talk to my auntie from Mamanalo, I put on brown. Still the same mo'o. It's how you communicate. Yeah? It's where you at. And for me, that's the most important thing. And that's what I teach my children. So some people think I'm this academic, I'm this good. That's my green color. But you really don't know the mo'o then. Because you're talking to me like you don't know me. Like if you come into it, are you David Sai? Why you're like, no. What, Sapina? Get it? Oh yeah, David just left. When they call me Keanu, oh, they know me. When they go, Anu, oh, that's family. Oh, okay. Who you? Okay, uncle. So you have to know how to adapt. I got 2 kids. Now, when you walk this talk that I walk, it hits the fan. That's from my background in the military, and I don't deviate. Because the more you attack me, the more I know it's real. Because you don't attack something that's frivolous. When I first started to jump on this thing, because I told my tutu I needed to know my genealogy, I didn't take up my tutu's request to know my genealogy until 1992. I was already a captain. I'm already seasoned. Yeah. What I did was I began to look up genealogy and I went, oh my God, it's all there. I found out that Prince Kuhio, when he died, the newspaper for his funeral had my great-grandfather there as one of the 14 pallbearers of Prince Kuhio's casket. Whoa, I never know that. Nobody in my family knew that. Then it got me more interested, and I started delving into who these people were. And what I found in Hawaii's history through the archives and public records was a very different view of Hawaii's history than what I was taught at Kamehameha and what I was taught at UH. See, I was no longer angry, but I found out that Meheula, wrong. That's not what happened. Hawaii as a country, wrong. We weren't a banana republic trying to act holy. Hawaii being an independent state, yes. How can we think it's a colony? That's what got me into this. And then I said, you know what? I got to test the waters. See, one thing to namu namu, yeah, vala'o, yeah, puhi kawaha. It's another thing to hana. It's going to work. So I made a decision. I just realized Hawaii's still a country. And it looks like I'm the only one seeing that. I said, I got to get out of the Army. So after 10 years, 1994, I retired. 6 years obligation, 4 years voluntary. I loved it in the military. I still got friends in the military. But it was for me to get out because I got to walk this talk. 1994, I walked it. I said, I'm out of here. We're going to prove Hawaii's a country. So we created what is called Perfect Title Company. We're going to prove it on the record. Nobody owns nothing. See, that's when we'll get your attention. I don't care if you're black, green, yellow, or from Mars. Hawaii's still a country. You're going to have a problem with your title. And everything hit the fan. That's when you folks saw Keanu Sai all over the newspapers. Charlatan, you know, crook, telling people don't pay their mortgages. Attack. I get arrested for racketeering, money laundering, tax evasion, and theft. Yeah, that's true. Right there, I said, hem of the ring, because I was married. My boy is 8 years old, the other one 4 years old. Nobody gonna know my family. Now you're gonna know me as a so-called activist. Focus your attention on me. That's my military side coming out. Then walk it. Then they drop the charges, get me on attempted theft of land, a Class B felony. Did you know real estate is not the subject of theft because you cannot steal the land? It's supposed to be trespass. They should have got me on conspiracy and fraud. All BS. Main thing, nail me. Then after I get convicted, I get sentenced by Judge Sandra Sims. First thing she does when she comes out, 1990, what is that? No, 2000. She apologizes in front of everybody. Ken Conklin, never like that. Ken Conklin was in the audience. He wrote about that. He couldn't believe the judge was apologizing to me and said, the state nor this court will prevent you from resolving this issue because it was about to go to the World Court, Permanent Court of Arbitration. I'm the lead agent. Up there, and this is where I'm going to tie it up. Up there, we argued the case. You cannot enter the World Court unless you're a country. You cannot. You cannot enter the World Court if you want to be a country. You got to be a country. And it also allowed, if you're a country, you also can have an arbitration with a private party. That's how we got in. Now, while we're up there, the last day of the hearing was awesome. It was awesome. Unbelievable. Everybody up there understands that you're an independent state. You come home, everybody think you're crazy. But there's a reason. So I was up there. We get approached. We get a call from the Rwandan ambassador. an ambassador from Rwanda, Brussels. That's where the embassy's at. He was in the World Court because across the hall of what is called the Peace Palace was the International Court of Justice. Ours was across the hall called the Permanent Court of Arbitration. Huge case. All these ambassadors are going, what is Hawaii doing in the Permanent Court of Arbitration? Because only countries can get in the World Court, and this was a hearing. Well, we got that call, and the ambassador says he needs to meet us in Brussels, Belgium. This is in December of 2000. He said if we could catch the train from The Hague down to Brussels, about an hour-and-a-half train ride. We arrive in Brussels, we jump on a train. We arrive in Brussels, and a motorcade picks us up from the embassy. We jump in the motorcade, and we head off to a meeting of the African Union, the European Union's counterpart, African countries, talking about economics. We go in there, we meet the ambassador, he escorts us to a little cafe across the street. This guy comes, opens the door with an apron, Belgian, must own the cafe, opens the door, lets us in, closes the door, locks it, pulls the shades down. Bruh, I'm thinking 007 stuff. You know that laser thing? I'm looking for the red dot. So my military's still there. Let me face the door. And I actually documented this story in one of my law journal articles out of San Francisco School of Law. It's actually in there. So I sit in front of the ambassador, and my legal team is behind me, and the ambassador tells us he has important information to tell us, to convey to us. He says his government has reviewed all the documents in the World Court, because we opened it up for the public. And he said it is clearly Hawaii's occupied, and that this occupation has to come to an end, and that Rwanda is prepared to report to the United Nations General Assembly the prolonged occupation of Hawaii, put it on the agenda. I'm sitting there going, whoa. Here we are at home, beefing. Here we at the World Court, hearing. Now he wants to move us to the next mountain. And I went, let me have a meeting with my legal team. So we sat down, we talked. Long story short, I sat back down and said, please convey to your president our sincere gratitude, but we cannot accept this offer at this time because our people do not even know their own profound status as a country. And we have to go back home and begin re-education. And that we cannot allow Rwanda to be retaliated politically because of Hawaii is headquarters for the Pacific Command, because that is the issue. It's not about natives, it's not about sovereignty. That is a far-gone conclusion. Hawaii is a country, and the natives are the majority of the population, but Hawaii is occupied. That's the key. He thanked us. I said, no, thank you, we'll be back. That was December of 2000. That's when I decided with my legal team, I got to enter the University of Hawaii, and I'm going to rip it from the inside out. Meaning just the information, because I know what is being taught is wrong, because I know what was being taught, and now I know what it is. So that's when, January of 2001, I entered the master's program, political science. I'm going to specialize in international relations. I want to see if any professor can refute this information. From there, moved to the PhD, specializing in international relations and public law. Professors I had on my committee, I picked professors who couldn't agree with me. That's how you defend your dissertation. Only had one native Hawaiian, Professor Kanalu Young. When he passed away, Professor John Osorio. The rest of them, 2 deans of law schools, one from London, political science professors, sovereignty, law and judicial behavior, public law, none of them could refute it. And that's been the track I've chose that you folks now know me as, the academic. But that is only one of my hats, because I also am involved with other things behind the scenes. And that's why I want to end with, people say, hey, what are you going to do? I cannot say I'm going fishing. Otherwise, the fish ain't swim away. When I come back with the poke, you know I went fishing. You know we didn't tell everybody we're going to the World Court. We said we went to the World Court. See, that's how it's supposed to be. You don't want to set up barriers. So there's a lot of things that are done that I'm involved with that I cannot divulge. It is not out of disrespect. But because of the game I play, I cannot allow people to get involved and you're going to get hit hard, just like how I got hit hard. Because I can take the hit. Koinai. 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 We got the koinai and the koinai. That's an inside joke me and Kaleikoa have. So I just wanted to take that time to share with you my kuleana. Yeah? And mahalo.
Great. Aloha. You know, as I sat here and listened to my two fellow panelists, I couldn't help but feel, oh, you are so young. You know, it's amazing to me and actually it was a sense of pride because when I started with working with Hawaiian issues, the movement as we used to call it, this is what we dreamed about. I mean, these are the products of what we were working for. And sometimes it's a hard adjustment for me to realize I'm getting to be one of the older guys in the room, you know, having been so young for so long. And, you know, and I just wanted to say that when you talk about, at least for me, it's been really interesting, because it's been a journey. It's been a journey. And I think that if we're going to talk about leadership, or Hawaiian leadership, one of the most important things that we can do is know our history and know it well. And the contribution that they have made into making that possible, I think cannot be overemphasized, because it's the foundation of what a lot of us are doing, or a lot of us believe in. And I remember growing up and discovering that we were a nation when I was in about the 6th or 7th grade, reading a history book. I said, wow, I didn't know we had a king. I knew there was Kamehameha around someplace, but you know, you never really, I didn't know there was more than that. There was this rich history. And you know, how excited I was to discover that. And then running to my father and saying, you know, what I had learned. And the saddest part was when they lowered the flag and they was describing how people wept and all of that. And I told him about it. And he looked at me and he said two things which really stuck to me, because we had never talked about this kind of stuff. And the first thing he said was, you know, we were a great nation. And I said, wow, never heard that from him. And then he said to me, don't believe everything you read. And I never realized what that meant and how much our history had been changed over the years to satisfy somebody else's agenda. And so the first thing you discover, at least for me, was when I was reading these books, was why? Why did we do this, and why did we do that? And, you know, why didn't the Queen just go out there and kick out these Marines that had occupied, that come ashore? Just instead of, you know, being peaceful. Why? And if I was there, I would do this. And if I was there, I would do that. And, you know, then you started to, over the years, started to actually study. And what I learned from our history was how astute our leaders were and how they really knew what they were doing and what they were dealing with. You know, the story of Umi reminds me of stories that what I've learned about Kamehameha, the Great. Everybody calls him the great conqueror, the warrior. What they fail to mention is after the battles, the first thing that the king did was, here's the conqueror, and he went out to the taro patch to plant taro, so that the people saw that his concern was their welfare. And he went out to the fish pond to fix the fish pond. And he went out to the ocean to show the fish. You see, he knew what statesmanship was about. He knew what leadership was about. He knew what was important. This was not just some guy who happened to get some Western cannons to blow up people. And I said, wow, maybe I ought to learn a little bit more. And if you look at Queen Liliuokalani's response and what she did, he said, well, she did well, she tried hard, she stood up. No. She was dealing with a nation that had just decimated a continent. They had killed off almost all the native people. They had provoked the war with Mexico to grab land. The same time that the Hawaiian illegal overthrow was happening, somebody planted an explosion in Cuba that blew up a ship that caused the Spanish-American War. So here are these troops landing as an act of war, and yet there was no war. And what was fascinating for me was when I learned from my brother Keanu that the Queen actually won. Her strategy worked. She worked out an executive agreement with the President of the United States. She maintained the sovereignty. And therefore, the only thing that could happen was that people cheated. Politics happened. Power happened. She knew what she was doing. The Kūʻe petition was laid out, and the people of Hawaii stood as one, and their leaders knew what they were doing. And they took these petitions to Washington, and the votes were against us. Votes were against us. We're going to lose. And they turned it around. And the Treaty of Annexation was stopped dead in its tracks. You see? And you know what was interesting to me was that that was big news right across the whole country. And you know who our biggest allies were? A bunch of racists. You ought to read the stuff that the people who were voting on our side were saying about us. You know? Horrible stuff. But our leaders knew how to use that to the benefit. And once again, power took over. Politics took over. And they cheated. And yet, what that did for us is that the refusal of our Kupuna to relinquish our nation's sovereignty makes it what makes it possible for us to say that we are a nation. Not that we are going to become a nation, not that we are going to build a nation, that we are a nation. And that is the foundation of what we are about. Now, my journey, my background is I'm a lawyer, and I'm also a political, I guess, animal. You know? And they conflict, you know? Because lawyers like things that are static. You can't argue a case if you don't have something, it doesn't stop in a point in time. So you can say this was wrong, that was bad. And politicians, we like movement. Sometimes we like shadows too, you know. But we think of things as being dynamic. And when I was being introduced, for example, just to make that point, and my good friend Bill Meheula, who used to sue me with regularity, yeah, you know, was mentioning all the things that my administration has done. You need to know that for me, anyway, if you really want to understand where I'm coming from, all of those things are not actually achievements. They're just steps in a process. The only thing that really is interesting is what happens next. You see, all of those things were just where we were at the time that we were, and it was the next thing that had to be done. And if you understand that, then you get a better feel for it. You know, we all talking about our experiences. And when I was going to college, it was the issues of the United States was the Vietnam War and the war on poverty. And I got caught up in all of that stuff, you know, and running for student body president. So that in Michigan, you know, like showing that Hawaiians can win elections even in Michigan. And I did, I won. I had all the kids from Hawaii holding signs for me, you know. And the first thing that we did was, you know, I got thrown out of college because you can still see the college president yelling at me, you know, that this was, you know, some kind of young fascist or something. You know, why do you want to lead protest marches and do all of this stuff? But it was exciting. Then I went to work in community organization. You know, the night I started work, it was the third race riot in the United States. And my boss tells me, go down there, keep the peace. I said, are you nuts? You know, walking through the streets and everything burning, and I'm wondering, what the hell am I doing here in Michigan, you know? And that occurred to me, that what we were doing here maybe ought to happen in Hawaii. And I wanted to come home. So I came back here, and then we ran into a group of other like-minded individuals, some of whom have already been mentioned. And we were coming out of things like the war, you know, OEO and model cities. See, this is our training. This is where we thought about community organizing. So we wanted to benefit Hawaiians. And we had protest marches going on with Kalama Valley, which was, by the way, everybody. It wasn't really Hawaiian. It was Hawaiian-ish. It was local. And we started a group, became part of a group called the Hawaiians. So this is like contemporary Hawaiian history. The Hawaiians. You see, because he's going to celebrate his 30th anniversary graduation, I'm looking forward to my 50th in 2 years. And I don't, you know, it's all occurring to me now. And we started the Hawaiians because Hawaiian Homes had all this land, and we were wondering why we didn't. We wanted to know why Parker Ranch could lease thousands of acres of lands, and they couldn't give Uncle Sonny a ranch. We never knew our history, but we knew that something was wrong. And in 1974, they said they're going to take it back. The Hawaiians said we're going to take it back. And they went to this gate that blocked us from entrance to Hawaiian home property that was leased by Parker Ranch. And Uncle Joe Tassel, you see him all around the place, walked up and cut the chain and opened the gate and became the first Hawaiian arrested in a real Hawaiian movement. We didn't know our history, but we knew something was bad was happening. And then they started the Aloha movement for reparations. That's a bad word, actually. They didn't know that back then, but you could.